contest. I've compiled 9 of the dunks. Here they are, my favorite dunks from last week.
Toronto Raptors. Nor will they forget him outscoring Portland 62-61 in 3 quarters.
Also, is because of the different rules that the XFL has implemented, which I think are
Extra point.
Yo,
Every other Thursday. We're here.
We stay here.
it's us. Welcome back to another episode and another season here of The Extra Point. I'm Jack Crowell. Alongside me is Dan and Luca. First topic we have for you guys today is the MVP race in the American League and the National League as the baseball season is starting to wrap up as we hit these late September days. Who do you guys have in the MVP race for the American League so far?
I have Vlad Guerrero Jr. And I know this sounds crazy because everything Ohtani's done this year has been absolutely fantastic. Same with Judge. I personally, if you talk about valuable, the most valuable, I think it is Judge. But MVP-wise, the best player this year has easily been Vlad Guerrero Jr. If he pads his stats a little bit more, he will be a Triple Crown. And that's just unbelievable. You don't see that. The last time someone did that was Miguel Cabrera in 2012. And before that was Carl Yastrzemski in 1967.
Yeah, I know.
Very rare for
Very
someone to
rare.
do that.
And, you know, it is crazy because of how many stars have just shown off the season. Like, you know, Judge is having a phenomenal year. Vladdy is having a great year. But Ohtani's doing stuff we haven't seen since Babe Ruth. And he's been better than Babe Ruth. Like, he's facing better competition, better hitters. It's impossible to not pick Shohei Ohtani for MVP, in my opinion.
See, I get what you mean. But how can you have a guy that's an MVP that's not even going to sniff the playoffs? Like,
Mike Trout's won it how many years? Mike Trout's won how many MVPs?
3 MVPs, I get that. But how can you have a guy that hasn't even sniffed the playoffs? Like, if he has them 75 wins somewhat in the playoff race, I get it. But here's the other thing. He's hitting 257. He's not in the playoffs. He's hitting 257. He's hit a lot of home runs.
He's hit 44 homers. 94 RBIs.
He's done a great job. No question about it. I just don't think Vlad Guerrero Jr. is going to be on a playoff team and possibly winning a Triple Crown. You just do not see that. And where are they without Vlad Guerrero Jr.?
It's true, but also then at that point, the same case could be made about Aaron Judge, to where, you know, where are the Yankees without Aaron Judge? And also right now, where are the Angels without Shohei Ohtani? They're the most irrelevant team in the league. Mike Trout's been out the whole year. Ohtani's made that LA market somewhat relevant, obviously outside of the Dodgers.
I agree with you, but I just don't think that with Ohtani, that the Angels aren't much different without him. Like, the bat's huge and the arm's huge, but if you put him on a team where he's their ace, I mean, he is the Angels' ace, but you put him on a team where he is clear-cut the best on that playoff team.
You put him on, like, the Rays?
You put him on the Rays, probably your MVP. But, because what he's done is historic, but what Vlad Guerrero's done is historic, and I'll die on this hill. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is my MVP.
Luca, who do you have?
I mean, I got Aaron Judge. It's going to be a little bit of a bold pick. I know you guys make good points for Guerrero and Ohtani, but, you know, Aaron Judge has been a face for the Yankees for so many years, and everyone knows his name. He's a home run hitter that can kind of hit at any time. You know, he can be in a slump, but, you know, he can hit that stride. And, you know, this year he's been batting .292. That's better than Ohtani, right? He has 34 home runs, a little bit less than both of you guys said, but still that's a very great number. And the RBI, he's got 84, which is, you know, still not up to you guys had. But, you know, Aaron Judge, he's a solid player, and I think he has better baseball coming on the end of the season. But, you know.
The one thing, too, I will say about Judge for his case, the one thing that's helping him a lot defensively, he's one of the best right fielders in the league.
If not the best.
And also, the Yankees are nowhere without Aaron Judge this year. They've had so many cold streaks to where if they don't have Aaron Judge, they're probably not even coming so close to the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you're going to use that logic, I might even throw Garrett Cole in the MVP race too. Because where are the Yankees without Garrett Cole being an ace every 5 days? He's been their one consistent pitcher all year. Everyone else has been up and down. Outside for a 4-start stretch, Garrett Cole has easily been the best pitcher in the American League, and I might even say baseball because DeGrom's been hurt for the second half.
It's true. It's a good point. Now let's switch over to the NL. Who do you guys have taken home the MVP awards?
I have Bryce Harper, and I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. He's easily had the best peripherals. He's not hit as many home runs as Tatis, and he doesn't have the RBI rate that Muncy has, but highest OPS in the league, great on-base percentage. He's hitting 300, slugging 500, and has an on-base of 400. That is incredibly rare.
Yeah.
He's playing just as good as he did in 2015. The average isn't there. Maybe you could say the home runs and the RBIs aren't there. But where the heck are the Phillies without Bryce Harper?
That's a great point. But then also the same case could be made without the Padres with Tatis. They fell when Tatis was hurt. They fell a lot
I get what
in the
you're talking
standings.
about.
They lost a lot of games.
I get your point, and you make a good point. But even with him back, they've still been sliding.
They have, but he's been able to keep them somewhat relevant. Like he's been able to keep them afloat in the wild card race.
I agree, but at the same time, it's not as much been the Padres' offense that struggled. Even when he was out, it's been the pitching that's just gone. And the 20 errors in that shortstop, a premium position, is very costly. Bryce Harper has played tremendous defensively in right field all season long, and he hasn't gotten the credit for it at all. Keep in mind, Harper's hit a lot of clutch home runs for them. He's been right in the middle of everything when they're going good this year. True.
I just think right now Tatis, Harper's a big name, but Fernando Tatis is probably the biggest name in baseball. He's a guy that has a lot of energy when he plays. The MLB loves to use him to market. He's the face of MLB The Show this year. I just don't see a world right now where Tatis is not the MVP. I don't see it happening.
And you mentioned Tatis, he's the face of the league and everything, but how about Max Muncy with the LA Dodgers, man? I mean, RBI, his 81 RBI, it's more than, my apologies, Harper, not Tatis. But, Max Muncy's a solid guy on a really, really good team this year. And, he's doing his thing. And I think, he's going to improve with the season going on, and it's going to be a solid, year for him.
Yeah, he's having the best season of arguably the best team in baseball. It's either them or the Giants. They're neck and neck right now. Mm-hmm. But Max Muncy is doing incredible things.
I agree. Muncy's having a fantastic year. He's been really consistent. For a Dodgers offense that surprisingly had guys who have been brand names in the past really struggle. A lot of guys on that team haven't exactly hit to the back of their baseball card.
No.
Which
you have guys like Betts and
exactly.
Bellinger hitting, in under 200.
Yeah,
it's not
Bellinger's been sent down a few times this year. So having a guy like Max Muncy to consistently be there every day has really helped them. But Bryce Harper, outside of his injuries, he's my MVP. And the better he's played, the way he's kept a Phillies team that has no business being in the playoffs. That bullpen's been awful. They've really, outside of Bryce Harper, have had not much go well for them this year. And the fact that they're clinging and might even get into the wild card is just fantastic. Give Bryce a lot of credit.
Thank you, guys. And that will conclude this segment here on The Extra Point, and we'll be back.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Extra Point. I'm your host, Ben DeVito, alongside Jack and Luca. For this segment, it's a new season, so we're gonna switch it up a little bit. We're gonna introduce new segments, and this segment is called Boom or Bust. Fantasy football is something everybody who loves sports does. I know I do it. We're in like 3 leagues together.
Yeah.
So essentially, fantasy football is something everybody loves and everyone struggles with. So in this segment, we're gonna talk about players that overperformed, underperformed, and who we think are gonna do that in week 2 of the NFL season. So we're gonna start with some overperformers from this past week. And one guy I had in mind that I don't think anybody ever expected was Elijah Mitchell from the San Francisco 49ers. Going into the season, this guy was the running back, maybe even 4, if you introduce Trey Sermon.
Right.
But for him to get 19 touches and over 100 yards in one of his first career games, and to add a touchdown to that, that's unbelievable. And I mean, Raheem Mostert, he's out for the season. That's mad. It's very unfortunate. It's he was one of the top running backs from last season. So to see him go down is really upsetting. But at the same time, you have a guy like Elijah Mitchell. So if I'm the San Francisco 49ers,
you feel all right.
You're feeling all right. And then they got the Trey Sermon, the rookie. So that was one overperformer I had. Another one was Deebo Samuel. Going into this game, I would not think he would get 9 receptions for 189 yards and 1 touchdown.
He almost was the reason I lost, but Matt Stafford saved me in the end.
He was the reason I lost.
We'll get to Matt Stafford in a little bit because he really impacted the Rams. But, Deebo Samuel, I would never expect this out of him. So do you guys think that these two players are, waiver wire pickups if they are on the waivers, or do you think this is like a one-time thing?
Deebo Samuel, yeah, I think so. Especially with Trey Lance, like more attempts he's going to get to pass, like the more starts he gets when he fully is their starter. Deebo Samuel, I would want on my team. And Elijah Mitchell, I'm not sure because you know what? That was his first game?
Yes.
So you really have no idea what to expect from him.
Yeah, I can agree. I mean, Deebo Samuel, I feel like he's a good flex position for any league. I don't know if I'd put him at wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. I think it's just a really deep pool. But I do think as a flex, he can make some really good numbers. In terms of Elijah Mitchell, I think it's kind of a one-hit wonder kind of performance. I mean, you got to think of that team. They got Trey Sermon, who they drafted this year. And they also got Trey Lance coming in on those running kind of option plays. So I don't know if Mitchell's going to have these 19 touches again in future games, but something we have to see. But I think it's a one-hit wonder for him.
I mean, I feel he did show true potential in this game.
Absolutely,
Yes.
he did.
And
yeah.
I think he pretty much proved himself and cemented himself, especially now with the injury. I think he cemented himself as the running back 1. I don't know if they might introduce Trey Sermon a little bit, in these next coming games. But I do believe going forward that Elijah Mitchell is a pickup for this week. I feel like he's going to be great for the rest of the season. But those are some overperformers. Let's talk underperformers. And there was a bunch of them this week.
There absolutely were.
For one, Zeke. I just can't get over the fact that you have an RB5 in this year's draft. He's going as ADP as low as 7, right? So he's like a top pick, especially in a very thin running back
year.
It's so thin this year.
Yeah.
So, Zeke should be a solidified pick. But if he's going to play like this for the entire season, I don't know. 11 attempts for 33 yards. That's 3.3 yards per attempt. For a guy that's often claimed as one of the best running backs in the league. But I feel like performances like this prove why he is not that.
I'd have to agree. I mean, obviously the Cowboys, they're a very pass-heavy offense. Dak Prescott showed that on Thursday night with an incredible performance. And you know what? Zeke, running backs don't last long in the NFL. He's been in the league for a while now. I think he's starting on the decline.
You think so?
I think so, yeah.
See, I don't know if he's going to go on the decline, but for sure, I'm saying he is not a top 5 running back in the league anymore. People were saying, he'll be good when Dak comes back because, towards the end of last season, we kind of saw this trend from him in terms of fantasy. Because, he was performing for the Cowboys. He was doing well. But for fantasy numbers,
he was not having a good year.
he wasn't having a great season. Whenever everyone was like, when Dak comes back, he'll be fine. Yeah. But if this is how he's going to perform, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
And then another underperformer, which honestly was the most surprising to me.
Oh, yeah.
The reigning MVP, Aaron Rodgers, 133 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Now the question remains, do you think he is a solid starter moving forward, especially because I feel like he might be tanking his trade value?
I think right now there's too much of a risk with Aaron Rodgers because there's in a lot of leagues there's probably players like a Baker Mayfield or there's got to be someone else out there that you can throw in right now, whoever your backup is, a Kirk Cousins maybe, to where you just put Aaron Rodgers on your bench. And yeah, maybe if he goes off okay, but that risk right now is you can't get 1 point from your quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty wild to think that, in the year 2021, we're saying that Aaron Rodgers is an underperformer. I mean, for so many years, he's been arguably a top 3 quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
He was like a high draft pick in a lot of fantasy drafts in, recent years. And this year, actually, 2 leagues I actually got to get him. So, I was pretty excited. I was looking forward to it. And then he lays his goose egg. Now, I don't know how invested Aaron Rodgers really is in the Packers this year. He had the whole debacle. He's hanging out in Hawaii with one of his friends for what seemed like forever. Wasn't with the team for OTAs. Started a lot of drama. You start to think, is he really into it? Is he really into it like he used to? And, Aaron Rodgers, I do think it's too early to say this because, talent's talent. I think it's hard to lose it. But, it's not looking very promising. But I feel like we got to give him a couple more weeks, see what he's all about. And he might pick it up, but it's not a good start. It's not an ideal start at all.
So you don't click the panic button for this. You want to ride out Aaron Rodgers. You shouldn't ditch him week 1. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because, last year we saw Tom Brady, right? The Bucs, week 1 against the Saints. Awful performance. Everyone's like, oh, the Bucs are horrible. They're not going to do anything. This thing's going to fail. And what ended up happening? He won the Super Bowl, and his stats got so much better as the year went on. So, in a fantasy perspective, this looks really bad. And, Jack, you said it, there's a lot of quarterbacks that in fantasy it's like the numbers is not really that big of a difference. So you could fall for, Baker Mayfield, Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins. But, I still think Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and I think he still has a couple good games in him. We just got to give him some time. I'm not panicking quite yet, though.
Okay, before we wrap up this segment, for week 2, who do you think is going to boom and who is going to bust in week 2?
I'll start it off. I think one player, I'm starting him this week as my wide receiver 1, Allen Robinson. He's playing the Bengals. The Bears are going up against the Bengals. That secondary is bad. Outside of Jesse Bates, they don't have anyone else on that team. And I can see Andy Dalton going to him a lot, especially towards the end of Sunday Night Football. He was targeting Allen Robinson a lot. And my bust, he had a great week for me last week. He's going to have to sit the bench this week, though, Adam Thielen. He's going up against the Cardinals. That Cardinals secondary shut down arguably the best receiving core in the league, in A.J. Brown and Julio Jones against the Titans week 1.
Absolutely. Luka?
Yeah, my boom, I have Derrick Henry against the Seahawks. Now, last week, the Titans were absolutely surprised by the Cardinals. I don't think anyone thought that game was going to be the blowout that it was. But, I think Derrick Henry, the Seattle defense, let's be honest, they're not very good. I think he's going to get a lot of touches. We're going to see a lot of the Derrick Henry we saw last year. High stats, a lot of rushing touchdowns, a lot of carries. So he's my boom. My bust is Jamar Chase. We saw him last week. He lit up the Vikings. No one really expected that, and especially with his preseason performance, wasn't the strongest of performances. He dropped a lot of balls and everything, but that Bears defense, I think they're a little bit more solid. And Jamar Chase, he's a very young player, and rookie receivers and rookies in general take time to catch their stride. So they show really high, highs, but they're going to show their lows as well. And I just think he's going to bust this week.
Okay, and for mine, I agree with Jack. I think Allen Robinson versus Cincinnati, their secondary isn't that great. And then for my bust, I'm sorry, CeeDee Lamb, but going against the Chargers, I don't think you're going to perform well. So that wraps up this segment of Boom or Bust on the Extra Point. Stay tuned for more.
Welcome back to the Underdog, Monmouth University's premier sports gambling show, hosted by yourself, Jake Rossino. Here I'm joined with Dan and Ben. And we have 6 games on slate today, possibly 7 if we get there. Starting off, Thursday Night Football. New York Giants playing the Washington football team. Washington opens as a 3-point favorite in this game. What do you guys think about that?
I was at the Giants game the other day. I fully believe that Washington will cover. Daniel Jones looks atrocious. Defense looks atrocious. Saquon literally only runs inside. He cannot run outside. I wholeheartedly believe that the football team defense will shut down the Giants and Washington will cover as well.
I have to disagree with you. Daniel Jones over his career is 4-0 against the Washington football team. They've seemed to have issues beating the Giants over the past 2 years. Saquon Barkley, historically very good against the Washington football team. So I think, and the defense too. Listen, Teddy Bridgewater was fantastic. And I think that you're not going to see that same thing with Taylor Heineke starting. No Ryan Fitzpatrick this week. And I think Patrick Graham's going to come with a better plan. They're going to, remember, first week last year for the Giants, played an awful game. Second week, much better. So
I'm going to have to agree with Dan on this one. First week to me was kind of like a test week. Daniel Jones had his sparks. He had that fumble, obviously, which puts a dark mark on his game. But other than that, no interceptions. He had a touchdown and a rushing touchdown. Defense was terrible, I'll give you that. But
he also had a fumble, though.
I already said that.
Right.
I feel like the defense can improve. It was a very bad week against a pretty subpar offense, in my opinion, the Broncos. But Like I said, if Sterling Shepard plays like he did, if Galladay can finally get more targets than one in the first half, that'll be great. Saquon was running scared. If he can get out of his own head, I feel like he can run fine. Defense plays better. Football team's not that good, especially with Taylor Heineke as their quarterback. I don't trust them, especially to cover a 3-point swing. I like Giants +3 here.
I want to agree with you.
Then
I'm a Giants fan.
Then agree with me.
I want to.
Agree with us.
But the way they played the other day, it just, I don't know. Like, I honestly cannot tell you how these Giants are going to perform for the rest of the season. If they play the way they did on Sunday, we're going 0-17.
All right, let's
But
stop
we
talking
look
about
at
the
the
Giants
defense.
before I start having aneurysms. Next game, Rams-Colts. Rams 3.5-point favorites. I think they easily cover this. Colts are not as good as people are making them out to be. They're a good team, but the Rams are far and away a much better team. Rams are Super Bowl contenders, in my opinion. Matthew Stafford looked great in his first game against Chicago. I think Rams win this game by 7+.
I 100% agree. I feel that the Rams wide receivers finally got their guy, and that guy is Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford has been phenomenal. He's been a great quarterback, even in Detroit. He didn't have the weapons, so, you really couldn't see his true potential. Now he's got weapons. He's in a bigger market. He showed week 1 why he's that guy.
Yeah.
And like you said, I could see them as Super Bowl contenders. They're that good.
Yeah, they were in there a couple years ago, and they've improved since then. I truly believe so.
I agree.
Their defense has got better. Their offense has got better.
It's hard to bet against Sean McVay. Sean McVay is easily a top 5 coach in the NFL. He's been fantastic ever since he got there, offensive genius. That defense, number 1 in the league last year, played great week 1 against a Bears team. Granted, the Bears are not a great offensive team, but people forget Carson Wentz.
Montgomery looked great.
He did. But people forget Carson Wentz was the worst starting quarterback in the league last year by a wide margin. And I get the Eagles were a train wreck last year. They had a bad offensive line, but he struggled this week or last week too. That's concerning for me.
Yeah.
Especially against the defense that as good as the Rams are. I got to go with the Rams I think they easily cover.
All right, we all agree on this one. Now let's talk about one of the underdogs I'm a fan of this week. We have Chargers-Cowboys. Chargers opening as 3-point underdogs in this game. I personally like that. I think Justin Herbert's a fantastic quarterback. Chargers have Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. That's a pretty solid offense. Defense is better than Dallas. I think they win this game outright.
I totally agree. I mean, the Cowboys aren't looking too hot. I mean, in the game against Tampa, they lost.
It's kind of a shootout, though.
It was kind of a shootout.
Was it pass interference?
But that is a heartbreaking loss, though, for them. So I don't know if that negative mentality is going to go into this game against the Chargers. Like you said, Chargers have Herbert. He's one of the top quarterbacks, a young guy. He's great. You got Austin Eckler. It's fantastic. So I have to agree. Chargers are going to cover the spread.
I think it's easy. Chargers. And I think this is a bet. People that are watching this is a bet you have to make. The Chargers dominated Washington on offense last week. Washington's arguably one of the best defenses in the NFL, and Justin Herbert looked poised, confident, and they really played a fantastic football game. Great coaching by Brandon Staley. They dominated. And now to think they go from playing arguably the best defense to arguably the worst defense in the league. I think it's an easy win for the Chargers. And I wouldn't be surprised if they won by 2 scores.
Wow. All right, so we've been agreeing a lot, so I think it's time to get a little bold with this next decision. Lions-Packers. Lions 11-point underdogs. I'm taking the Lions. Aaron Rodgers has not shown yet that he wants to play this year. I mean, he had 5 interceptions all of last season, and in last game alone, within 3 passes, he already had 2. He doesn't seem to care. Devontae Adams doesn't seem to care. Aaron Jones looked terrible. The offense is not clicking at all. The defense was not clicking at all. Lions hang 30 points on a stellar 49ers defense. Granted, they were down for the entire game. You could say it was garbage time. They still hung 30 points on them. Watch out. Lions might win this game if the Packers aren't ready.
This seems like a trap game for the Packers, honestly. And the way they played against the Saints, who, by the way, the Saints lost a lot of talent last year. Drew Brees is gone. A lot of the starters on defense are gone, offensively. The Packers laid an egg.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've never really seen Aaron Rodgers do.
Worst
He
game of his
looked
career.
unprepared. He looked awful. I got to go with the Lions. And I think Dan Campbell had those guys playing incredibly hard. They almost came back against the 49ers. They played a great game. Defensively, they're not good. I'd expect this one to be a shootout, but I take the Lions by 3.
See, this is where I'm going to play devil's advocate.
There we go, finally.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I am not on the Aaron Rodgers bandwagon right now. I don't think he is going to overperform like he did last season, but he is definitely going to play better than last week. I mean, like you said, that's arguably one of the worst games in his career. What's the only thing you could do from the worst?
It's the only way to get better.
Only way you could go
only
is
go
up.
from there.
The only way you could go is up. So I think the Packers are going to win. The Lions are not going to cover the spread.
Okay, so you think Packers are going to win by at least 11?
Yes.
Real? Okay, that's fair enough. All right, couple games left on the slate here. We got Niners at Eagles. Niners 3.5 favorites. I think that's easy money. Eagles, Jalen Hurts gets a lot of talk, good or bad. I'm on the bad side. He embarrassed a terrible defense in the Falcons. Let's just not lie to ourselves. Him and Six had a connection, whatever. Not going to talk about it. Don't like the Eagles. Don't like talking about the Eagles. Still, they're not going to beat the Niners. Niners are, if they start, honestly, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Quarterback. Can't think of his name.
Trey Lance?
Trey Lance. If they start Trey Lance, I think without a question they win by 2 touchdowns. But if they stay with Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe it's a little bit closer. But the defense is just so much better than the Philly defense. The offense, par and par. George Kittle, is he the best tight end in the league? Who knows? They have Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. Maybe if he's healthy, that helps them a lot. Yeah, they lose Raheem Mostert, but Elijah Mitchell looked great. I think Niners easily win this game.
See, my thing with Jalen Hurts, he looked fantastic last week. And the Falcons might be the worst team in football. But I think you're going to see a combination of how he played against Washington week 17 last year. Granted, Doug Peterson set him up in no way for success that day.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see a combination of how he played against some good defenses last year and a combination of how he played last week, and I think you're going to get a happy medium for Jalen Hurts. That being said, I think it's going to be a very close game, but I think the Niners are just too good to lose.
I'm here to agree, but I'm also going to disagree. Niners came out swinging the other day. Same with the Eagles. Both played fantastic. That being said, I do think the Niners will win this game. It will be a shootout, but they will not cover.
You think the Eagles are going to lose by less than 3?
Yes.
Interesting. I think Niners far and away beat them, but that's the point of the show. We like to have arguments here, you know. It's nothing personal, but if we all agree on the same time, it's not good TV.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And last game I want to talk about, Raiders-Steelers. Raiders come in as 5.5-point underdogs after upsetting Baltimore in an amazing Monday Night Football game we have. Steelers, after no one expected them to play well against the Bills, and they beat the Bills in Buffalo week 1. Josh Allen, terrible game. Defense was strangling the Bills. They had that punt return for a touchdown, the block punt. I think Steelers also win this game.
Are the Steelers home or away? Do you know?
I honestly do not know. I probably should have put that down.
But personally, we're talking about the same Steelers team that laid an absolute egg and gave up 28 in the first quarter to the Browns last year. And they lost people. They didn't really gain it. All right, you could say Najee Harris. But what is Najee Harris going to do when they lose big starters on their offensive line? No more DeCastro, no more Mike Pouncey. Those guys were staples for multiple years on that offensive line.
Villanueva's also gone.
Yeah, no, Villanueva's a killer.
Yeah.
I think the Raiders...
I do think Steelers are home. I think they are.
Oakland, or Vegas as we now call them, played fantastic last week. I don't think anyone in their right mind went in thinking that Derek Carr was going to be able to hang with that defense. Hey, granted, they did lose Marcus Peters and Lamar Jackson. And they hung and they won.
Yeah.
John Gruden has been proven.
John Gruden, what a guy.
We have our mixed opinions about him, but he's been proven to have a knack for winning some of these big games and keeping it close. I think 5.5 is a bit much for Vegas to give. I think the Raiders win this one.
Okay.
I'm going to keep it short and simple. Steelers win outright.
Steelers win outright. All right, I think that's it for today. Thank you for watching us on Extra Point. On Extra Point, the Underdog, the gambling section here at Extra Point. Have a good one.